Hello everyone, it is great to see you and I cannot wait to talk about the video today that I've prepared. It's all about crystals, and I know that this is one that I was planning on introducing earlier in the summer, but the schedule sort of got switched around, and so it's coming through now, and I think it's the perfect time because I recently added a few crystals, so there are no coincidences, there are no mistakes, everything kind of happens in its divine time. With that in mind, I just want to kind of tell you how I'm going to approach this today. This is going to be an experiential video or something based on my own experiences with the crystals, and I'm going to share that with you, what works for me, how I use these crystals in my day-to-day life, and hopefully it will be something that sort of demystifies it a bit for you and encourages you to go out and discover things for yourself. I'd like to start with one of the oldest crystals in my collection. This is Amethyst, and I got this when I visited Sedona for the first and only time actually. I really like this crystal. I may not be able to hold it the whole time because it's pretty heavy, but what's great about Amethyst is it's sort of like a universally protective crystal, but also general use crystal. You can use it to expand your own intuition. You can use it to protect your space. It's really great for working with the top chakras because of the color here, specifically working with like the third eye. So I usually put this crystal on display in my main workspace. And what I like about it is you don't really have to, as you can tell, it's kind of hard to pick this up and work with it. But what it really functions as is a sort of like energetic filter, if you will. If you think of like an air filter that you would normally have in the room to clean out the air, to clean out the environment. For me, this particular crystal functions just as that. It's something that elevates the energy of the space, and you don't have to have a gigantic crystal. This is a moderate sized one, and something like this will probably run you a couple $100s, but you could easily go with a small crystal that would go for like $10. Again, this was my first visit to Sedona. I wanted to kind of have one, at the time I had saved up, and I thought I'm just gonna get one really good crystal that will elevate everything in my space. This definitely did the job. It protects you from negative energies, it diffuses other energies, and again, it enhances your own meditation. So if you want to put this close to a place where you practice yoga or meditate, fantastic. Again, I usually have this in the living space, right where that plant is back there. I usually have it on that area, or I have a little shelf up here, you can't see everything. So it's usually facing me or around me, and it's in my general work vicinity. And I found that it's been very effective just to enhance the general space. This is a type of crystal that you can also wear around your neck or as jewelry. You'll often see it in rings, in bracelets, polished in small stones that you could wear, again, maybe as a choker or around your throat chakra. Fantastic for that as well. Earrings are great too. So this is just a great crystal that you can put anywhere on your body. You can use in any type of meditation or any sort of healing potential in your life. So I highly recommend it. Again, it can go anywhere from a couple bucks to a couple $100s. It really depends on your budget and where you're going to put it. So a crystal of this size I often use as part of a crystal grid, and that's the next thing that I want to discuss with you. To me, this particular crystal should be positioned in a place in the room where it would be central or easily located between the other crystals, and it kind of acts as a CPU or a central place where the energy can aggregate. And then when you put the other crystals around the room, they kind of tie into that energy. So let me grab my quartz crystals and I'll go into a little bit more of how you can set up a crystal grid, and that's going to be the next thing. So the first crystal that I mentioned is amethyst. Now we're going to work with quartz. Universal crystal I think everyone should have in their collection. So let's start with quartz here for the crystal grid portion, and I'll give you a couple examples. These are the individual crystals, and this is a cluster, and I'm going to show a really easy grid layout using these crystals here. I would use crystals like this in the corners of the room. Something like this you can buy for about $2 to up to $10, but I wouldn't spend any more. I think about 6 to 8 is perfect for a crystal that's this size, which is almost like the top of your finger. If you look at that, that's a good sort of sizing measurement. And yeah, what I look for in these is clarity, so that there's not too many impurities. Also looking for something that I can see through and is pretty clean, because I'm going to show you an example of one that isn't. This one has a pretty big impurity in it. You can see it at the bottom. Although that's not a deal killer, it does sort of block the energy a little bit. And I typically would use something like this. You'll even notice the coloring is darker. It's sort of like a smoky, but not an intentionally smoky quartz. This just has a lot of impurities. I would use something like that on my back porch. Maybe I'd put it in the corners, and it would be an area where I don't spend a lot of time, but I still wanted the energy to be clear. So something like this inside. And I'm going to show you now, I'm going to turn the camera down, how to make a grid. A lot of times people do very complicated ones. I'm going to show a very simple one. Maybe a little bit hard to see since these are all white. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to put a little bit of something underneath so that you can see this from a contrast perspective. So much easier to see with a little bit of contrast underneath it. Again, this is the central cluster I showed you earlier. You can actually mix and match. You could do an amethyst cluster, and this is an example of something that would only cost maybe 20 bucks or 30 bucks. Much more affordable, really good and easy to work with. So again, you can find something that's budget friendly depending on what your needs are. Again, what I was going for here was overall clarity. There's not really that many impurities in this, and much like these individual pieces, it's going to really offer the best as far as channeling energy goes. So I'm demonstrating a very, very simple grid here using a central crystal to really aggregate the energy, and then these crystals can be placed in the four corners of your room. So imagine this being sort of and if you have sort of like an oddly shaped room, you can just add some additional crystals into the grid. But basically anywhere that you have a wall, you could put the crystals around that area. So the grid can be a square one, it can be an odd shape, whatever works for the particular area that you're in. When you place the crystals around your house, your apartment, your room, what you want to do for each of them is activate the crystal after, of course, you've cleared the crystal. So with something like this, you can clear it with some water, running it underwater. You can use holy water. You can also use a simple smudging technique, taking some sage, taking some incense, and simply clearing it off, just putting the crystal above it and setting the intention to clear any negative energy to allow only higher frequencies and light to go through that crystal. And then particularly with the smaller ones, you can actually put a little bit of your energy into them and get a feeling for the crystal until you feel like it's activated. And then you can pray over them. A lot of times what I will do, particularly in a space like this, if I'm going to be working with readings and intuitive work, I might call in an archangel, something like Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. Pick your angel. Before, people have said, why haven't you mentioned this one? Whoever you sort of work with, you can, again, kind of put the crystal in your hands until you feel like it's activated, and then say something like this: Archangel Michael, please watch over me, imbue your energy in this crystal, and provide a sense of protection from any low frequencies. I ask this with gratitude, and I charge this crystal with the intent of protection. And once you feel that it's been activated, you've got it. And again, you could call on different angels and different masters in each of these crystals. So this one we could do Raphael for healing. Archangel Raphael, please imbue this crystal with the ability to be empathic, to heal, to be able to see and feel beyond myself, to get out of my body and understand what others are going through. Allow this empathy to be something that heals others. And I ask for your protection as well, since those of us that are empathics can sometimes pick up things that we don't need or want. Allow this crystal to ward off any lower frequency energies, but also to enhance our own intuition when we need it the most. Thank you. I say this with gratitude, and I appreciate your presence in this space. All right, this crystal is now imbued with that protection. Again, we can kind of go through all of them. You can also just do something general and say, I call on the highest frequencies in the universe, the highest ascended masters, the highest creative force. I ask that the light come through this crystal and bring with it the ability not only to be more intuitive, but to cast away shadows or to neutralize them, showing the light that always exists within. So whatever comes to you, usually my intentions are never the same. I always come up with something new that I might need for the space. I'm gonna do one last one. Let's see, I don't think we've worked with Gabriel. So Archangel Gabriel, the angel of communication, of delivery, of understanding how to connect to highest source. I ask for you to help me remove blocks in my own intuition. Let this crystal be a conduit between myself, the divine, and allowing for no other filters to somehow block my intuition. I'm grateful for your presence in this space, and I ask that you protect me through this crystal. And that's it. That energy is now here. So you can see that you can have a very specific or a very general intention. And then in the center one, you can view this as sort of like the sun or the central vehicle for all energy to travel through. And again, imagining I'm putting light, a central sort of almost like a star, bright white or a bright blue energy through this crystal, and seeing it connect with the other ones. And I felt a crown awakening, so I know that this has been amplified and activated. Now I could simply place this in a prominent location in my room, and then I will place these in the four corners, and I have a very simple crystal grid. You'll see that sometimes you can mix and match. So if I was just going to do a crystal grid to meditate over, maybe have it near me or under me or around me, what I could do with that is still have sort of the central grid that I've set up, but perhaps I want to work on things like relationship energy, and I'm drawn to this crystal. And I want that to focus in towards me, so I'm pulling that crystal down, and that would be one crystal that I could mix in. And maybe I want some healing energy as well, so I'm drawn to this crystal, opening up my heart chakra, and also higher intuitive planes because of some of the other colors in here. And then perhaps I want to bring love in my life and work on relationships in general, so I could use these rose crystals as well. This is a more advanced grid, but basically there's no wrong way to go about it. I would simply look at the crystals available to me and then start to include them in my grid. Now, since I introduced some, I'm going to go through each of these because I can already anticipate people asking, wait, which one is this? So let me begin with rose quartz. It's going to be best illustrated if I put a color behind it. You can see it has a very subtle pink color to it. And what I love about this one is it's very gentle. Like you can see, it's a pastel color. It's really good at creating relationship harmony and also preparing you for love or bringing in love. So if you're trying to manifest a new relationship or heal wounds in an existing one, having some rose quartz in your house, particularly as you're meditating, you can create that sense of harmony. Something like this is very inexpensive and easy to find, probably something that you can find in the $10 to $20 range. Highly recommend it. And it's great for just general purpose, and it's good in your environment in general because it will just create harmony. The next one that I have, I believe that this one is a green fluorite, and fluorite is really good for overall mental clarity. I also have a green calcite, and this one's just good for healing. Both of these, though, I associate with the heart center, so I'm less concerned on the type of stone. I look more at the colors in them sometimes and how I feel with them. So this is really good for me if I want to, again, focus on healing or overcoming things in my heart that have caused blockages. And both of these seem to me to have the same sort of influence on that. So this one a little bit deeper in color and also has some different stones at the top. It looks like it might be a little bit of purple stone, so maybe some amethyst mixed into it. And so I really like this if I'm trying to meditate and call in higher energies and also have a little bit of protection. And I use this one mostly for just overall relationship healing. This one is for harmony. You could use the two of these together, noticing again the very light pastel colors, which for me is a gentle energy of the crystal as well. So to me, they're a much more subtle crystal. But on the same token, I think that's a great way for you to get started, starting with some of these easily accessible, lower cost, and subtle energy crystals. Now, if you're looking to really have an experience, the next several crystals that I'm going to show are the ones that I think have been most transformative to me, and I can't wait to share that information with you. The first stone that I'd like to highlight is this beautiful Selenite Sphere. You can tell by the way that it really reflects and refracts all of the light that it's quite amazing. It does the same thing with energy, and it's probably my favorite stone at the moment that I own. It's pretty new to my collection. A friend of mine here in LA who actually specializes with crystals and consulting people on crystals, his name is Cooper, by the way, and I'll put his information below the video. Cooper helped me find this, and I have a few of these stones in the house. When I purchased them, the reason that I got them was to help improve my quality of meditation, of sleeping, also the intuitive work that I'm doing here, I just really wanted to call in the highest possible frequencies and energies and keep my space in an elevated state. What I didn't expect was how effective it would be at other things in my life. The first was picking up on energies around me. So 2 nights after bringing this crystal into my house, I was meditating and then fell asleep after meditating, and I was able to perceive an energy that was here that shouldn't be here. It came from a reading that I had had earlier that day, and it was just a residual energy. It did have an intelligence to it though, and when first I saw it with my third eye, and then I actually also saw with my physical eyes, I saw the energy and I saw this sort of hesitation in it, and immediately I knew, okay, I just have to smudge the place and I need to walk around with this crystal and say an intention of protection and clearing. And I never experienced it again, but I was so grateful that this helped me perceive that. And it was after I brought it into the space that I was starting to find energy pockets that needed to be cleared. The other thing that was surprising is that I brought it in for clearer and more relaxing sleep. But what it actually did was helped me have more clairvoyant and prescient messages in my sleep. So by and large, I have a much more restful sleep, but when it is interrupted or when I have issues, it's because I'm receiving a very clear download of something that I need to deal with. I've had incidents come where I see someone in my life that has a conflict or feeling of discord with me, and I need to resolve that. I saw also a potential issue popping up where there was a fear of destruction of property or something like that, so I had to do something to protect that. And then also just things that are coming through in the future. So it kind of helps open things up. And for me anyway, this is my personal experience with this. I would compare this to a fisheye lens or a wide angle lens that you would put on a camera. So just imagine you're kind of putting that over your third eye, or as you put it in your space, you're expanding your ability to see and feel more. And this crystal is basically opening you up so that you can use that information to make better choices. And so good for clearing energy, good for seeing things. It's not a surprise that, it's the sort of archetypal picture of a medium, but they would be holding a crystal ball. My choice for crystal ball would probably be this, a milky one, this beautiful Selenite Sphere, rather than a typical sort of clearer ball like this. I have an old Quartz one. This does nothing compared to the Selenite. So highly, highly recommend this. This is, aside from that little tiny one, this is my first experience with a real sphere that has real potential. Highly recommend it. And I think I want to explore more spherical stones, something that I hadn't used in the past very much. Because again, for me, they have the ability to take a wide array of information and focus it. They can also work as a projector to kind of take the light and push it out on a really high frequency everywhere else. Again, it's amazing that you can kind of see that beautiful reflection of light inside that this has. Beautiful, beautiful stone. Highly recommend it. Okay, so that's the first crystal. And again, I use that in my place of work. So it's great in an office. It's great in a studio or a space where you meditate. And it's especially useful in your bedroom close to where you sleep. The next stone that I'd like to highlight is this Citrine Point here. Looks almost like an obelisk. And I really, really love it because this is one that I look at all day long. I situate it here, excuse me, right in front of me where I work. And what it allows me to do is first and foremost connect to the energy of the sun. And this is a stone that you can use to clear your solar plexus, and also, like I said, connect with higher energy, higher frequency energy that we would normally associate with the sun. If there's any sort of pain that you're going through, whether it's a separation or an estrangement or someone's just driving you a little bit crazy, you could also meditate with this crystal right over your solar plexus. Great for that. It's also good for calling in abundance in all forms, but particularly for those of you that might be trying to clear blocks in your finances. And it's great for clearer energy with relationships. So in business, this is a good stone to have because basically you're strengthening your own sense of worth and self-worth. And when you're working with others, you're seeing them in a clearer and cleaner light, and you're attaching to solar energy, which is good. And again, I love the greenish color in here, which not only can be attached to growth and abundance, but also the heart chakra. One thing I'd like to note is the color of this. If you look at this, it has this beautiful greenish tint to it, greenish yellow tint. And I'd been working with what I didn't realize was a heat treated stone. And you can see it has more of this amber, a little bit of kind of almost honey colored tip to it, but it really wasn't necessarily a true citrine. This is, and so I wanted to just alert you that sometimes you want to really check and see, are you working with a heat treated stone or are you working with the real thing? So take a look, make sure you know where you're getting it from, and there definitely is a difference. Once something's been heated, it changes the structure of it, and it also changes its ability to work in the same way. And I have to say, after just about a month of working with this one, I much prefer it to some of those perhaps imposter citrine stones that I had before. So do yourself the favor of trying to source something like this. And one thing that I really love in both of the stones that he helped me find was this wonderful richness of sort of like, I don't know what to call them, formations within it. And if earlier today the sun was shining through it, and I might be able to capture one of those photos on Instagram, but it really, it's almost like it lights up from within, the same way that when I was holding this Selenite Sphere, you could see that interplay of light. Even right there, it has a way to capture it. I really think that that has a direct correlation with how it works with the energy as well. So make sure you're finding a stone that looks good, feels good, and also has some of these finer sort of formations within it. Wonderful stone to add to your collection. I think, again, anyone that's looking to improve how they feel about themselves, how they are operating in relationships, and healing even issues with money, great stone to have. In addition to the citrine that I just showed you, I like this, which is a Herkimer diamond. It's actually quartz, even though it's called a diamond, but really great for, in my experience anyway, it kind of evens out all of my chakras. So if I've worked too much, or if I'm feeling a little out of sorts, I can hold this, meditate for a moment, and it kind of brings me into a place of being centered. And also it's great for third eye opening. And that's why I combine this with the citrine. So I get this sense of connecting to the solar plexus and also to the sun. And this is opening up my third eye, which brings me a sense of openness and protection. These are my crystals of choice that I keep right by me. So I think if you do any sort of work with metaphysics or spiritual healing, etc., these are great to have in your collection. Now, as I was looking at all the stones here, I realized I really have enough probably for a second video series. So I'm gonna wait a few more months, and maybe 3 or 4 months, continue to work with the crystals. I might have more to share then. I think this is a really good place to stop for now, because we've talked about a wide variety. It's enough for many of you to sort of get a sampling and decide what you want. I'd like to wrap up everything that we've been talking about with grounding stones. And I have a few samples here of hematite, agate, and tourmaline, I believe. And these are really great for if you want to go deep into meditation, but you're not sort of feeling ready. You want to start with something that can ground you on this plane. You can also mix and match these. So you could put one in this hand, and then you could take, this is a treated quartz crystal, and it's a little bit bigger here, but you could use a combination of a grounding stone and some sort of like a higher frequency stone here, so that one foot's on the planet and the other one can kind of go out into the ethers. So that's kind of how I use them. You can, again, combine them. I don't have a really big grounding stone at the moment, so I might choose a combination of these plus one of these crystals here, and that's a great way to meditate. So feel free to incorporate darker crystals in your collection. They have a place, and for me, they have a place in making you feel connected to the earth. Now, if you're feeling like you need to somehow just ground yourself and you don't have access to a bookstore, you don't have any of these darker stones, I'm going to let you in on a tip that anybody can do. Go outside, and if there's an open field near you, or better yet, if you're at the beach, or if there's a nice body of water and there's some polished stones, just go and pick up one of those that calls to you. Hold it within your hands and just remember, you too are part of this planet. You're supported by her. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of heat. It took a lot of years for them all to get to these beautiful formations that we see here. So when we're holding this, we're holding history. We're also connecting to the planet in a way that we don't do every day. So whether it's a beautiful polished stone like this, or it's something in the rough like this, it all has the same energy, and all that matters is that you feel something when you hold it. So maybe you could begin your journey by going to the beach, going to the river, going outside into your garden, digging around a little bit and finding something and thinking, how does this make me feel? And honoring that connection to the planet. And if you incorporate this in your meditation practice and give gratitude to Mother Earth, it doesn't matter what stone you're holding, you're going to feel some sort of a connection and a development when it comes to your intuition. I hope that this video today helped show some stones that worked for me. I have many more in my collection that I'd like to talk about in the future, but I want to learn a little bit more about them first. That's what this series is here for. We're all learning together, and I thank you so much for taking this journey with me. As always, if you would like to continue this discussion and have a one-on-one session with me, either for a reading, to talk about metaphysical or intuitive development, or just to ask some questions about what's going on in your life, I am available for one-on-one sessions. The first link below the video will allow you to schedule a reading with me, so it's there if you'd like it. Secondly, if you'd just like to give back to the channel, a reminder that all of these videos are a direct result of the support from people like you. So you can join me on Patreon or do a one-time donation through my website. That second link will walk you through how to do that. The third link is a way just to connect with me across social media. Every month I post updates to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I also have a newsletter, so please join me across those networks if you haven't already. And of course, opt into notifications here by clicking that bell icon and clicking subscribe. That's a great way to know whenever I post something like this. Finally, I just thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your journey, and I hope that you got something out of this video. I'd like to do more in this particular series, so again, let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see in a future series. Thank you so much. I'll be posting videos for next month, towards the end of this month, so keep an eye out for that. And in the meantime, thank you so much. Continue to shine brightly and to make a difference in this world. I appreciate you.